But you think, I mean, you talk about this competitiveness, you can't turn that off. We see athletes, when they're done, they need something else. Pete needed something. When he played, he could, as a manager, but he needed that juice of gambling. And then when you get busted by Major League Baseball, his competitiveness, like Lance Armstrong, it doesn't allow you to apologize.
That's true.
And that
I
he
mean,
was
the
his own
adrenaline.
worst enemy. Yes.
It's the adrenaline. And let's face it. I mean, we talk about alcoholism. I've had friends that have been alcohol. I see kids on drugs all the time. They have a hard time getting off. Gambling is an addiction. Let's just face it. We know it is, and it was for him. But he needed it. He wanted it. He wanted to compete. And when he didn't win, he had to double up, and it's like he had to go after something else. And then when he loved the horses, then maybe it was basketball. Then it was football. Everybody bets football. And then what do you know best? Well, let's just assume it was baseball. People say, well, he only bet on the Reds to win, he said. Well, if you don't bet on them every night, you're betting against them. I mean, I got buried in Cincinnati because I didn't support Pete. I didn't support all the things that, it's okay. And it's still Rule 21, no matter what you do. I don't care what you do. And people, whenever you go to speak, first question is, and I look at them and I say, what do you think? And they said, yes. And I said, well, do you have kids? Yes. And I said, well, go home and tell them there's no more rules. And it's like, whoa, well, I said, well, I didn't make the rule. I didn't make the rule. I didn't keep Pete out of it. In fact, I went to Commissioner Seelig twice, went to him a third time. He said, no, don't bring it up again. Twice. Mike Schmidt, Joe Morgan, myself. But those are the bad things.
But what if the Hall of Fame just says, we want him on the ballot? Since, they're independent of Major League Baseball. Would you have a problem if Cooperstown says, we're going to have him on the ballot?
It's been their choice since '89.
Yeah.
They've had that option. It wasn't Major League Baseball. It was the Hall of Fame that says, here's who's on the ballot. These are the guys that have played that for 10 years or the certain amount of time that makes you eligible to be voted on. And they chose not to put him on the ballot. I don't have a vote. I'm not a member. I'm a member of the Hall of Fame, but I don't have a vote. And it's interesting to hear so many people saying they would vote for him. So many people say they not vote for him. And there were always lines drawn. And we are a forgiving society. There's people that right now have gone out and killed people. There's people caught in drug sting. There's dealing fraud. They do everything. And yet they're now the face of sports in a lot of ways. And for Pete, I think he had a chance. I think when Uberoff was the commissioner, he tried to get Pete to sign off on a thing. And when Pete said, no, I'll beat it, then it became, I will challenge it. And it's been a losing proposition for him. In the times that Bud, come on, let's try to get him on. Okay, let's get him on. Let's see if he'll do these things. It didn't work. It didn't take. He didn't follow the rules that they had laid down. And man, for all of us, there wasn't a one. Tony Perez, Pete, Joe Morgan, there wasn't one of us that didn't say to Pete, come on, let's do this. And it's sad. It's sad he has to leave his legacy with the gambling part of it rather than a legacy with 4,200 and a jillion hits, 4,256, whatever it is, 5,000 bats, 5 all-star games in different positions. And the desire and to make everybody better. Everywhere he went, he made everybody better. Hey, look what happened in Philadelphia when we went over there. And Mike Schmidt and all of those guys just stepped it up a notch because their intensity level, because that's what Pete had more than anybody.
I can't tell if you're more mad or sad.
Sad.
Yeah.
I am absolutely devastated. I have cried. I've actually cried because I didn't want this to happen. I didn't want this to happen to Pete. I wanted to save Pete. Yeah, we had our difference. We knocked heads on some certain things and everything else. There wasn't one time that we didn't shake hands or hug whenever we saw each other. I just didn't want it hanging over him. I didn't want this to be part of baseball. I didn't want it to be a black eye on baseball to begin with, but more importantly, Pete gave everything to all of us. All of us. And yet this sickness, this addiction was too much for him to overcome.
He gave you, but he he didn't give you what you ultimately wanted, and that is to help Pete help himself.
Yeah, we had quite a talk out in California when we were at an event together, and he said, "Can I see you for a minute?" And he came, and we went into a different room, and he said, "I apologize. I apologize for everything that I did to you during your Hall of Fame year, how it affected that, how I've affected you after your career, because I know all the questions are coming about me, and it takes away from what you achieved, and it probably takes away from what I achieved. But I'm sorry. I apologize." And I thought, now is the opportunity, Pete. Now is the opportunity to really step forward and say, "I'm sorry." Fall at your feet of everyone and say, "I'm sorry." And America would have forgiven him. I mean, somebody said, he would have been worse off shooting, better off shooting somebody. I think than what this has caused. And we seem to make certain things out of who took drugs. All right, let's go with Barry Bonds. Let's go with Roger Clemens. Let's go with Sammy Sosa. And then we take Corey Canseco and McGuire. And yet there's guys that probably have taken it or accused of taking it, that's playing now and played forever and played in the Hall of Fame and are in the Hall of Fame probably.